What's up, y'all? We want to welcome you back to the Elevate podcast. My name is Kevin. I'm here with our good friends, Kevin and Joseph.
And we are back. Part 2, baby. Let's go.
There we go. There you go. Last time we got into a really good conversation, Kev.
Yeah.
It was really solid. I think we landed pretty well, and we appreciate you being back here again.
Well, he never left. We just cut the podcast
way to
and we
go,
went to
bro.
part 2.
Way to go.
Yeah.
What do you mean? They can literally watch us and see we're wearing the same clothes.
It's fine.
Okay?
That's
fine.
true.
Hey, it took some effort for him to stay here a little longer, carry out an extra 30 minutes in the conversation, you know? So
Yeah. It feels like a different conversation.
It
Okay,
is.
okay,
It
okay,
does.
I'm-
It
okay,
does.
no.
It's like we're starting all over again, something new.
Appreciate it. All right, cool.
But hey, man. So towards the end, right? We asked this question. We're talking about, you know, how to be a Christian, or how to be a Christian in today's, you know, secular culture, et cetera, how to be a cross-culture Christian. But in that, how can we be a cross-culture Christian? How can we be Christians? And how can we express faith, you know, to people without being cringe?
Yeah. Wow. That's the question, isn't it? Man, that's such a great question. So just to give you a little bit of a context, I don't know, for those of you watching this part 2, please go watch part 1. There's some really good context and backstory there. But for those of you who are just watching this for the first time, I am on TikTok. I am a content creator on there. I make chai videos.
At
and
Cross Culture Christian.
At Cross Culture
Hey, bro,
Christian.
I'm still going to need you to make me some chai one of these days for sure, though. I'm just saying, please.
It's
I would be, like, an honor for me to,
Oh.
like, have you make me some chai.
Some
like,
authentic chai.
Some authentic chai. Like, you have no idea. Like, I look at those videos, I'm like, you know who? I was super jealous of David. He went to your house,
Oh, yeah, he did, yeah.
and then he's just posting this video of you making chai. Bro, I was so
Did he really?
jealous.
Oh my
I was just like, man, I want that. I want to just
The
try
real
it, Kevin.
stuff.
It'll be
Yeah.
my pleasure. It'll be my pleasure, man. Honestly, I was actually thinking about getting some here, but I was like, man, no time.
Next
today.
time.
Next time. Yeah, so I make chai videos, and right now it's about 200,000 people across different platforms of people who just want to learn how to make chai, but also use it as a meaningful practice in their lives. One thing that I did not expect to happen was to have a significant part of my community be non-Christian. I mean, not only non-Christian, but anti-Christian, who are still kind of sticking around, who are also constantly engaging with the content that I post. And I know this because some of them would say things like, I am not Christian. I don't think I'll ever be Christian, but this is the place I want to be on TikTok.
That's sick.
Then you'll have
That's
people
awesome,
saying
bro.
things like, you know what, man, I left the church when I was a kid, but you know, something about you, I just feel safe here, and things like that. And I'm just so grateful for so many other people who are there. One of the most fascinating conversations that I had recently about this was with on my Instagram DMs. Someone reached out to me, and this person said, "Are you Adventist?" ? And this person was not a friend, so I said, "Yeah, I am. It's in my bio, so go check it out." It says SDA pastor on it, and she's like, "I'm shocked," and I said, "Why are you shocked?" And then she said, "Well, it's because of where I heard about you from," and I was like, "Where did you hear from? Where did you hear about me from?" And then she sent me this link to a podcast, and she said, "You may not want to listen to the whole thing, but here's the timestamp. Fast forward there and start listening." Now, at this point, I'm really kind of like, I'm just like, what's going on here? Because
Yeah.
this is not a podcast that I
Wow.
showed up
Yeah.
in. There was not anything. So I was just like, wait, so somebody else talked about me and they didn't talk with me. So I'm already nervous,
It sounds
right?
sus.
Dude, this
Super
is
sus.
crazy. Oh,
And so
I'm excited.
Yeah, and so I click on the link, takes me to Spotify, and then I instantly find out why this person was shocked. Because this podcast was a podcast produced and hosted by two women who identify themselves as modern day witches. Okay.
Oh shoot.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
That's crazy,
So
bro.
this whole podcast was on witchcraft. So every
my
episode, so I actually scrolled through the Spotify. I was like, okay, so every episode is literally talking about an aspect of witchcraft.
Interesting.
Like down to spells and all this different things. And I'm really, really nervous, right? And I'm holding this phone and I'm scrolling through all the episodes like, okay, this is intense. And so I listened to the episode and I started listening from the beginning. And yeah, they were talking about, some festivals coming up and this and that. And, my first reactions of this conversation was like, okay, these people are like nice people.
Yeah.
They're like, the vibes are chill. Like they're
Yeah.
talking. So if you think witchcraft, you think like, okay, these guys are
It's like
full-
hocus pocus.
Hocus pocus.
Pony Heights. you
Yeah,
know?
Pony Heights, the pointy hats and, goat horns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But none of that stuff. They were like woke witches.
Hashtag woke witches.
Oh my goodness.
And they're just talking about like what's happening in the cultural moment and like what what we're talking about here, the culture and stuff like that.
Oh.
Anyhow, so I didn't listen to the whole thing. I fast forward, and then towards the end, so at that point, this one of them said, I want to talk to you about this person I met on TikTok, and he goes by the name Cross Culture Christian, but I think his name is Kevin Wilson. I just want to say, like, this dude is so legit. And, when he makes chai, it just reminds me of things like purpose and value and hope and meaning. And he just thinks of chai as this, like, really good ritual and, like, I resonate with that, and she was going on and on about it. And I was just like, oh, gosh. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, there's going to be, like, a
But yeah.
right, at the end of the conversation. There was no buts, bro.
No
She was the end. She was just like,
way.
hey, cross-culture Christian, Kevin, if you're listening to this, I just want to let you know that you're just awesome human being. Thank you so much for what you're doing online. Hey, by the way, guys, go listen to this guy.
Wow.
Yeah, no, this legit happened. I can show you. Like, it's crazy, bro.
Dude, that's wild.
That's
Send me the
wild.
link, bro. I want to
Yeah.
listen
I
to
will
that.
listen to it.
Definitely.
I will
My
send it-
question is, how did this girl who reached out to you,
Yeah.
like, how
Know
did
who
that?
you were. Yeah,
That's so
yeah, dude,
interesting.
world
Crazy.
crazy.
And so that was one of very few instances where I was just sensitized to the fact that I'm not just talking to Christians. I'm talking to people who have completely different worldviews and values, and that completely shifted my perspective on content creation because I'm a
Wow.
pastor, and the story that I told myself was like, okay, I'm going to post Christian content,
Yeah.
right? And so now I'm like, okay, how do I pivot? So, man, along the ways, there are a couple of things that I think are important for Christians to keep in mind as we talk. And I'm not like any expert on this, but like there are a few things that I want to mention. Maybe you guys can like chime along. I don't know, do you want to go there right now or?
No,
Oh,
yeah,
Yeah,
let's
go.
go. I think the first thing you have to keep in mind is when you say Christian, it comes with baggage, and you have to understand that. Gone are the days when we have to assume, or we can assume that just because you're Christian, it places us in a kind of a favorable position in society, especially here in the West. That's changed. I think that's changed because of politics and how it's one of the reasons why it's changed. People have used the name Christianity as kind of a weapon to kind of endorse a certain view or to marginalize different groups of people. They will say things like, I'm a Christian, therefore I will, and so there's a bad taste right now. And we just have to kind of admit that, okay? We have to start from that premise. Because if you don't, what's going to happen is if you really want to change minds, if you go in with the superiority complex, with saying like I am right and you're wrong, you are definitely going to burn that bridge. So humility is key. Humility is really, really key, and I try to do that through TikToks when I'm sharing stories, when I'm posting stuff, and I try to assume that there's at least going to be one person who's going to listen to this who is like one TikTok away from leaving Jesus, or one video away from, bashing Christianity or something like that. Like I always have to keep those things in mind. So assume that that you don't have like all the answers. Okay, so that's the first thing you have to keep in mind. Second thing is, okay, so then how do you talk about Jesus? There's some people listening who are like, I want to talk about Jesus.
Yeah,
man.
and
Yeah.
they just don't know where to start,
Where do we
how to
start?
go about it.
Here's where you start. You start with your story. That's where you start. In a secular kind of context, in a world where it's not, you can't assume that everybody's a Christian. the superpower that you and I have is our stories. So what I do in my TikTok, and practice is to put up some hands and legs to what I'm talking about, is whenever I'm making chai, I have different types of content that I put. Now I do reviews, I roast different people, and it's just fun games really. But a core part of my content is actually sharing stories from my life. I would make tea, but then I will share a story from my life. And like last week, I shared a story about like what on my concept of home, because I've grown up in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
Share that story. And what I've realized is when you share stories and you connect that with your art, whatever that is, it creates this kind of bi-directional link between you and the listener. It's kind of like that frost bridge in Asgard.
The Bifrost.
The
Bifrost.
Bifrost.
There you go.
Frost
Actually-
bridge.
We're actually in the middle of watching.
Yeah, I'm on a
all of
Marvel MCU marathon right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going through the entire MCU timeline.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when you share your story in a meaningful way, you actually create that bridge between hearts. Where what happens is like when you share your story, you create this access point where other people are, at least at the very least, they are sensitized to their story. They're
Yeah.
like, wait,
Yeah.
what do I think about home? I'm not telling them what to believe.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just sharing my story, right? And so that allows kind of this kind of passageway. And the people who want to walk over would ask things like, that's really, really cool. Thank you so much for sharing that story. Hey, so like I grew up in here and here and here. And yeah, look at the comments. Like they will share their stories. Now, when you have two people and you've shared our stories, what's actually happened is trust. And I would even, I'm going to probably make even a little bit more of a controversial statement here, but again, I will unpack this later. But right now, in a culture, in a world that's so allergic to truth and absolute truth, what's more important than truth, in many ways, is trust. Is trust. Because because we live in a time where facts actually don't change people's minds.
Yeah.
What changes people's minds is friendship. And it sounds really cliche and like very milquetoast, right? But this is kind of what like I've experienced where I've had people come and say, yo, like, are you really Christian though? Like you're nothing like my pastor, which is kind of sad. It's sad to me, right?
Yeah.
But I just say, yo, thank you so much for hanging out. I really appreciate you. And I call everybody my friend. Everybody's a friend. Everybody's a friend. If you showed up in the comments, you said something, I say, yeah, you're a friend. You took the time to say something nice. So you gotta, so those are the postures of the heart and the mind that you have to have. And if the thing that you're saying is beautiful, is valuable, then they will be willing to even listen to the theology and the Christianity that they will say. But you have to start with beauty. Is it really beautiful? Like you gotta ask that question. Is it really beautiful? Like if Jesus Christ died to save you from your sin. Yeah, you can say that. That's true. But I think another way to understand truth is that it's if it's really true, it's beautifully designed. It's like it's something nice. You have to think about truth in terms of beauty.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I see like our Adventist interpretation of the Bible. And this is a whole different podcast episode where like the sanctuary system, all these different things, they're all symmetry,
absolutely.
all
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
different things. God cares about beauty, right? And so
It's beautiful.
you got to start with beauty and less with orthodoxy. Lead with beauty. Don't lead with orthodoxy. Because people don't want to listen to your orthodoxy. People want to listen to people who think that they'll know what they talk about.
You know what that it reminds me of that story where Jesus heals the woman, or even the woman at the well, even because all Jesus did, right, was basically he talks with her, and really what he does is he finds a way to, I don't even know how to describe it, but he does something in there that the moment that she leaves, when people ask like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
She's like, I don't know, but I just know that he told me who I was.
Right.
And to me, I think like that's so powerful. Like there was no doctrine, there was none of that. It was this is who you are. And it did something in her soul. It did something like deep down. It's like, so many people looked at her a certain way, and Jesus didn't look at her through those eyes, and it changed the game for her, because for her, like her thought was like, okay, the culture looks at me a certain way.
Yeah.
No, I'm going out at this time of day to fetch water
Yeah.
because no one else accepts me at this time.
Yeah.
And instead, she's out, she's just minding her own business, trying to get in and get out so that no one sees her. And Jesus, like in his mind, he's like, all right, I'm gonna talk to this woman. And he changes her life forever
Right.
from a simple conversation where he called her for who she was. Not even who she was, but kind of said like, you're not what this society says. You're not what this culture labels you as. You basically what you said, he started with beauty.
Right.
And I think that's so insane in the difference that makes when we're able to start there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think like there's another story is the one with the paralytic in the roof, right?
Yep,
When he
yep.
brings him down. And I was just reading this verse the other day, and it literally Jesus, like he gets, his friends bring him. They can't
Yeah.
get through the door. They take him to the roof. They cut it open. They bring him down, and Jesus refers to him as friend,
So
Yeah.
right?
good, man.
And I was just like, when I was reading that and you just saying that, I was like, wow, like he's literally giving us example after example of what we are supposed to do,
Yeah.
right? Because that's not being a weird Christian. That's just being a human
It's
being.
being a human being.
It's being a great human being and being the example that Jesus was.
People try to be so Christian that they forget to be human.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, dang,
Yeah.
that's good. Yep.
That's exactly what you're
Exactly,
saying.
yeah.
Right, that's exactly what I love that you bought that. I love that you bought that idea about Jesus calling this guy a friend, because if I'm reading Ellen White, that commentary, if I remember what she was saying about this dude, she was saying that the reason he got into that situation was actually because of his lifestyle. Like he's been doing some crazy stuff.
Interesting.
Wow, I didn't know that.
You gotta go back and read Auntie Ellen.
Yeah,
gotta
go
go
read
read
that.
her.
Read that story. Read that story. Because some little backstory there. So Jesus probably knew what he got himself into, but he still
Called him friend. That's even makes
Yeah.
it even bigger, Oh
It's
man,
like,
I
you're my
love it.
friend. It's like I'm getting goosebumps here.
dude, definitely.
Listen, if your theology does not lead to empathy, it's idolatry.
Wow.
Unpack that some more.
If your theology, that's your view of God, that's your vision of the way of Jesus, that's your system of belief.
Yeah.
That's your doctrinal kind of framework, your 20 fundamental beliefs, or your perception of those beliefs.
Yeah.
That's your theology, right? If it does not lead you to empathy, what's empathy? Willing to step into somebody else's shoes, willing to say, you know what, I want to understand your story. Being willing to actually say, you know what, you have a beautiful thing going on, and just because I don't see that right now does not mean that it's beautiful. It just means that I don't see it yet.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to step in there, it eventually will degenerate into a kind of a quote unquote theology of your own making that is self-centered rather than focused on God.
Wow.
So you end up making a religion out of your own image.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah. So because the gospel, by very definition, is completely other oriented.
It's other centered. Yeah.
Yep.
It's other oriented because of that. Just by very definition, it's like, it's not at the expense of who you are. No. It's deeply individualistic, but also deeply communal in the
Yeah.
sense that, like, unless you realize who you are, unless you realize your worth and your value and you understand your purpose, you cannot love in the way that Jesus calls us to
Yeah.
love. And a perfect example here is Jesus at the Last Supper. So I love this scene where John says Jesus knew who he was, where he came from, and he understood that everything was put in his power. Therefore, he took out his outer garment, got into his underwear, boxers,
Yeah.
and washed everybody's
Yeah.
feet.
Dude, I love how you keep on using that word therefore,
Therefore.
right? It was a choice. It was right. It was a choice. He was aware of the situation. He was seeing what was happening at that moment, at that time. And he's like, and who he was, right? And with everything, and you see it all. Therefore, because of it, he does it. You know?
It's like as a result.
As a result of his theology,
Yep.
Yeah.
that he was willing to do that.
Because so here's the thing, like that comes from an overflow. Like
Yep.
and this is a conversation Joey and I were having earlier. The reason why Jesus was able to do what he did is because of his close connection to the Father.
Yeah.
Like the reason why he had so much empathy, the reason why he was so willing to take people's, terrible words, the reason why he was willing to be beaten, the willingness to humble himself the way he did was because of the connection to the Father, right? And he even says, like, you love because I first loved you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yup.
Right. And so when we talk about, how do we be, Christian without being cringe, it's not an ideology that you're bringing people into.
No.
It's a person.
Yeah.
It's literally coming from the fact that, you know what, you've seen what Jesus has done in your life. You've seen how he's ministered to you. You've seen how he's changed your worldview, how he's changed your circumstance, how he's changed, your inner being. And as a result of that, from the overflow, you are able to really basically show the gospel, be the gospel to people.
Absolutely.
Oh, I love that.
Practical point to just attach what you said, some hands and legs to
Yeah.
what you just said. It was so beautiful and profound. I usually ask people when they say, "Hey, I want to get into social media. I want to, do ministry." I usually tell them, if you had 1 hour, okay, to talk about anything that you can talk about without notes, but it's informative, it's valuable content. Like, these are things that you want to speak about, and you just know that, like, what you're talking about. 1 hour, what would you speak about?
Oh, I love, you just asked me this.
Yeah, I just asked you that. Write down the list of things.
Yeah.
In today's context, when you're coming to ministry and being agents of change, reconciliation, all that stuff, you got to start there. You got to start with the things that you know, because that's part of your story.
Yeah.
These are your passions. So let me ask you this. I'll give you 1 hour to talk about. I ask you 1 hour. What can you talk about for 1 hour? No. Let's leave theology, Jesus, for just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just for a second. But what
Kevin
do you talk-
loves talking, so this is good for
This
him.
is great. This is great.
No, I'll keep it short. Honestly, it comes down to two things.
Yeah.
First, it really comes down to meaning and identity.
Okay.
I think that's the thing where the way I put it is, like, every pastor has a theme it has to do with his worldview. It impacts what he speaks on, or he or she speak on a week-to-week basis,
Okay.
right? You'll constantly hear that, even though what they mention is very different, it could be a different topic, they will always wrap it around to the same thing over and over and over again,
sure.
right? And for me, a lot of it has to do with meaning and identity,
Okay.
because that's my story. That's what I went through. My struggle was always an identity issue.
Okay. So now, would you talk about that to, let's just say, someone who is anti-Christian? Okay. Would you, let's just say, what are some things that you can passionately talk about with that person, and you can just have an intelligent conversation? Would you still say meaning and identity? I think you can. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's great. That's great. If I were to ask you, what would you say?
For me, I think it's more. There's two things. I think they change throughout life, right? But one thing that has been consistent with me is sports.
Sports.
Right?
Yeah.
I love it. Like, that is, putting Jesus and theology aside, right? Sports is my thing. Like, I love football. I love watching football. I love watching basketball. I love soccer. That's my passion right there.
Yeah.
But I just love watching sports. Growing up, my parents can tell you, Sports Illustrated used to have these books. I don't know if you ever saw them. They used to have the stats of all the players from the seasons before.
Yeah.
I used to go in there, and you asked me, like, even tennis, golf, right? And in those books, they had the stats of everybody and pictures and everything.
Yeah.
And every year I would buy that at the library, and I would go through it, and I would know everybody. My parents would get mad at me because they're like, I'm pretty sure you can tell me what Kobe's points per games were in 2004, then your Bible, then your memory verse, right?
feel that.
Yeah.
But that was always my thing. Like, I've always loved it. If honestly, one of my first dreams was actually to be a sports announcer.
Wow.
And not a lot of people know that.
I think we've talked about this.
Yeah,
I
we
think you
did.
told me
Yeah, I
about
told
this
you that.
before.
But that was actually one of my first things. I wanted to be a sports announcer. I wanted to either do Dodgers games because of Vince Scully, right, or Laker games
Yeah.
because of Spiriditos and Michael Thompson. Like, that was my thing. Like,
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed just sports and just what it brings. There's so much you can relate to. Cohesiveness. Team. Is there an I, individual, personalities, different butting heads. Like, there's everything in that context. So for me, that's how I find it to be the most relatable. And I can just talk about forever.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell.
Yeah.
I can, you just get animated. And the reason why I ask you these questions is because a lot of the times people think, especially Christians think, that in order for me to do ministry, I need to talk about Jesus, and I'm going to talk about Jesus in different ways and be innovative in talking about Jesus. Start with what you have and where you are. God asked Moses, like, yo, what's in your hand? When he was just like, bro, I don't even know, dude. Like, I can't go back. Are you serious? Can you go back? No, what's in your hand? Rod. Use the thing that you have. So in today's context, that means your passions. What are you good at? For me, it's chai, bro. I can guarantee it. You can let me talk about. You
Yeah.
can get me talking about chai, and I will not stop. So so that passion, when you use that passion and you think deeply about, like, I want to like use that and like meaningfully minister to other people, and ministry, not for the sake of bringing them to Jesus, but ministry to fulfill a need.
Yeah.
Two different things.
Yes.
Both those two things are important. They're important. But right now, we need Christians who are excellent at their craft, because here's the thing: excellence in your craft is evangelism.
Interesting.
Amen.
Excellence in the thing that you just are so good at that nobody can ignore you. You are so good at that thing. Nobody's like, yo, bro, like that's that guy. Excellence is evangelism. That's a mindset shift that I
Yeah.
want people to have, especially as we're moving towards a post-pandemic age, moving towards an increasingly secular age, where people are like, I don't want to hear anything about Jesus and stuff. Yeah, that's fine. Cool. Here, let me give you some chai. Let's talk about chai.
Let's talk about
It's
sports.
a bridge, bro.
Yeah.
Let's talk about sports, bro.
Yeah.
Let's talk about meaning. Let's talk about identity. That's great, because like, okay, like talk to me. How do you understand identity? Yeah, those are the things, man. And people need to tap into those
Yeah.
things.
I think for myself, like the way it manifests itself is when we talk about ethics.
Mm.
I love ethics. I love looking at the different, like when someone does something, looking at it two ways, like why is it considered right? But also what is going through that person's mind.
Yeah.
Like why, my big thing is, why do you do what you do?
Yes.
And I think that's the question that I always go back to is every person has something in them. Every person has a worldview. Every person has experiences,
Yeah.
et cetera. Everybody has a story. Now, as a result of all that, what are those elements that causes for someone to think the way they think and
Yeah.
act the way that they act?
No, I love that.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the, back to our question was, a lot of times as Christians, we don't think that our story matters.
Yeah.
We don't think that people can relate to us.
Because it's not like, it's not that life-changing thing where,
Yeah,
something
exactly,
happened,
you
this
know.
come to Jesus moment, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. People, we think that we don't have anything that we can share when our like I just think about myself as a Hispanic, right? There is so much culturally that I'm sure you and I, because our parents were not from here, that we can just talk and there's something there. There's so much else than just what we do. If you don't feel comfortable with talking about who you are and these things, right? There's so much in your life that you can talk to somebody about and be like, this is relatable, and you can have that conversation.
Yes.
And then through that path, you let the Holy Spirit guide you.
Absolutely.
And then that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the beginning. And then from there, what happens? We don't know. That's between that, and that's the thing.
Yeah. And people have to make that shift in their minds that the goal of doing anything online or offline when it comes to evangelism and ministry is not conversion. It's always connection.
Yes, I like that.
It's never conversion. It's always connection, because who is doing the conversion?
Jesus.
No,
Jesus.
exactly, bro.
We don't do
nobody's-
it.
You don't even do it. Like, that's not even
us
your
as
job.
pastors, like
We don't even do it.
It's not our, people think, oh, your job is to convert people to be
No.
Christians. No, I see my job as connecting with
Absolutely,
people,
bro.
and
Absolutely.
having those conversations. And people ask me, and I'm sure this happens with you. They're like, hey, what do you do? And I'm sitting down having lunch. I'm like, this, bro. I'm like, this is what we do.
Yeah.
He's like, what do you mean? Just take me out to eat and we talk? I'm like, yeah, this is it.
Yeah, that's
Like,
it, yeah.
He's like, you're not gonna like grill me. I'm like, about
No,
what?
why would I?
About what, dude?
What do you want me? And that's what I love about this part,
This is
man.
it. This is it, bro. And yeah, if someone's listening to this and you're like, man, I don't know if I'm passionate about anything. I don't know what my thing is. Everybody has a thing. I don't have a thing. Listen, you have things. You have multiple things. And hear me out. Christianity is not about reducing or dissolving your individuality. It's actually about elevating it.
Yeah.
It's actually about putting all those pieces in a way that makes sense to, first of all, you. Then through that, because it's all like this nice system, through that now it's going to make sense to other people. And then if it makes sense to other people, now it becomes the thing that's becomes salt and light. Jesus talked about it,
Yeah.
right? It's this process of life integration. That's kind of what I call it, you know. And so that's what happens when the more you fix your eyes on Jesus. And that's why pastors are important. That's why church and Bible study, Sabbath school, all that stuff is important, because it just helps you remind you that like your story is not the ultimate story, but that your story finds meaning when it's connected to a larger story than yourself. And once it knows that place within this larger story, which is for us the gospel of Jesus Christ, then you can now meaningfully interact with other people in their stories.
There it is.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is. Well, I think that's it right there.
Yeah, man.
Right?
I love it. Yeah. What are we at right now? I don't even know.
I don't even know. Let's find out real quick. We're at 30 minutes. This is good.
Oh, it's
I
perfect.
feel like
Perfect.
it's short. I think this is everything that needed to be said.
Exactly.
How-
I agree.
How to not be cringe is just, find your thing.
Yeah.
Find your thing, and God will use that.
And let the overflow happen.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, hey, Kev, thanks so much
Well,
for joining us,
Kev,
bro.
man, this was fun, bro.
No, it's absolutely a pleasure to me, because like you've helped me like process some of these ideas, and so for me that's like a huge blessing. So you've helped me articulate some of these ideas in a way that I don't think I was able to articulate before. So yeah, I really appreciate you guys for giving me that, and yeah, this is great podcast, great project.
Man, I love it, man.
Yeah,
And-
I think I'm not even gonna be able to sleep tonight. All I'm gonna be doing is like reflecting, like,
yeah, bro. Literally, I have to edit this like today, so like I'm gonna be like just listening. I'll be like, "Oh, that's so good."
Start taking notes, like going back on
next
everything.
sermon right there, bro. You know,
Yeah, send me your sermon notes. I can piece it because I don't think I remember what I said.
Oh man, guys, it's been real. Thank you guys for the solid conversations, and thank you listeners for tuning in. It's been awesome the last 2 episodes to be able to talk with Kevin. And hey, make sure that you follow him at Cross Culture Christian, whether it be on Instagram, whether it be on Twitter, whether it be on TikTok. He's on all those platforms.
see, he did it
so
for you. You didn't even have
I got
to do
you.
it. Yeah.
I appreciate
I
that.
got
That's
you.
great.
Yeah.
That's great.
I got you. But also, you know what? I got to throw our plug in as well.
course.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to our podcast wherever you're listening, whether it be on Spotify, whether it be on Apple Podcasts. Make sure to leave a review. Let us know what your thoughts are. We've had some solid conversations. I think this is episode 11.
This would be 12.
Or this is episode 12. Mercy, get right. You know what? We've had a good run. And so we want to know what you guys think. We want to know what topics you guys want to hear.
And if you
us
want Kevin's
talk
number,
about-
just put it in the podcast. We'll put it
We'll
down.
put
in
it,
the-
we'll
no,
put,
yours.
No, we'll put Kevin's.
No,
in there.
yours.
Oh no, we'll put his number.
Mine's
Yeah.
not worthy.
Put it in the description.
Mine's not worthy either.
None of ours is, bro.
Oh man. But hey, y'all, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.
All right, guys. See you guys later.